All right, this is Steve Borland with The Natural Upgrade. This is a podcast that we bring to you on specific subjects. It's sponsored by Nature's Pure Blend, and we specifically want to find the best resources we can help you to live and unleash your best self and do it naturally. Today, we have a very special guest. We have a doctor of chiropractic. Dr. Alex is going to give us her insights and experience since she's been in the industry since 2018. She focuses on functional medicine and the mind-body connection, and I'm really excited to talk to her to get her perspective today on how nitric oxide plays a role in helping us to remain healthy and helping us if we are no longer in that position of homeostasis, how nitric oxide and other natural processes can help us kind of regain that level of health or homeostasis. So Dr. Alex, thank you for being with us today, and introduce yourself. Tell us where you're at. Tell us a little bit about what got you into this career and where did your passion come from to help other people?
Well, thank you so much for having me, first and foremost. And I entered chiropractic with the intention to help people and the intention to empower individuals to feel competent and strong in their bodies. And health consciousness, being around the exercise field, the nutrition conversation from a really young age was something that I was exposed to and involved with for a while. And I naturally took the next step with integrating that into my professional career. And as I continued on as a chiropractor, I actually started out in a more sports medicine environment. So a lot of movement-based therapy and working with a lot of active individuals. But as I progressed and spent more years in the clinic, I had my own clinic in LA for years before relocating to the East Coast. But I started to understand what we call the biopsychosocial model of health. And that is understanding how our nutrition, how our supplementation, how what we put into our body, the toxins from our general environment, and our social connections, our self-talk, and our meaningful interactions throughout the day all holistically contribute to our health, to our strength in our body, and to our feelings of capacity to be able to take on life in a comprehensive way. And so, although I started with that sports medicine focus, I really shifted into a more holistic conversation with my patients.
I totally get that. You just gave me a new term that I did not know, and not that I know everything in medicine or in the entire environment, but you refer to this as biosocial. Am I using the correct term?
Biopsychosocial.
Biopsycho. So I missed a term in there. Biopsychosocial. Okay. But as you were explaining, it made such total sense to me. And I've heard people talk about functional medicine and a holistic approach to health and wellness. But I think this is a more scientific term. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually forget the name of who coined it. We learned about it in school and it piqued my curiosity. And it wasn't until I really got my hands dirty in clinical and working with patients. And I was like, this is what they were talking about. Like, health is all facets of what we consume and what we interact with in our world.
And I like that. It is all of those. And yet,
Mm-hmm.
so many times, people are one-dimensional. And what you're talking about is maybe almost a three-dimensional approach. That is your biology, it is your psychology, and it is your sociology. All those are the three facets?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So when you approach and you have a patient that comes in to see you and they say, Doc, I have a problem. And what they're going to give you is what would you say? An outward symptomology. I hurt, or I don't feel good, or I'm not sleeping right, or something like that. That's if they walk into your office.
Mhm.
You really say, well, that's just the top surface. All of these other dimensions are all underneath it foundationally. And you basically start deconstructing their world to find out what is could I say root cause?
Exactly. It's like if the smoke alarm is going off, we're not just going to take out the batteries to make the smoke alarm stop
Well,
making noise. And that's like attacking your symptoms. We have to see what is causing the smoke in the first place to trigger that alarm. And so when we get to the root cause, it's not just chasing pain. It's not just chasing the symptom. What mechanism in the body or in inside of someone's experience is actually triggering those symptoms or triggering that pain.
I love it. I love, again, you gave a great analogy there. So often we get mad at the smoke alarm because it's going off. And you're like, have you ever had one of those that are going off in the house and you can't reach it? And you just take the broom handle
Yeah,
and you start
the
banging
worst.
on it. Right. But isn't that how so many people approach things in their life? Something has gone wrong after either poor diet, no exercise, bad lifestyle for what, decades, right? The American
Hmm.
diet. We know it's
Hmm.
bad. And yet we still sit there on the couch eating bags of whatever.
Hmm.
And then we take our broom handle and start banging when the alarm's going off, right?
Exactly.
You have such an excellent approach. So if we're going to talk about one of these alarms that I think is probably still the number one problem that we have with our American lifestyle, and it is our blood pressure problems, our cardiovascular problems. Is that still
Hmm.
correct? Number one?
It is. It's number one. And you know, you see a myriad of symptoms start to present in a patient before it gets to the point of, I have heart disease, I have hypertension, that's at a point of malignancy, or that just means, really, really high blood pressure that's not safe. And there are all of these ways to look out for what's going on with the patient, what's going on with the symptoms, what's going on beneath the surface before we get there. The heart disease and cardiovascular health doesn't have to be such a strong killer of individuals.
Sure. Uh, but what you're saying is if we think about it earlier and we become preventative, that there are
Exactly.
pathways and actions and habits and a lifestyle that we have to do to act in a preventative fashion. So let's talk about, we'll come back to preventative because that's what we'd all prefer to do. But many times when your patients show up into your practice, they're already crossed the threshold. So they have
Yeah.
lost their health. When you check somebody out and you say, okay, it looks like hypertension, high blood pressure, let's start off and define that for our viewers. What does that mean?
So, hypertension, which is the medical terminology for high blood pressure, is essentially when the volume of our blood flow through our vessels is too much for our vessels to handle. And it has a cascade of negative consequences in our body. So, if you think about a pipe with water flowing through it, if that water pressure in the pipe is is so strong and so rigorous to the point where it breaks the pipe, that's going to cause a problem. And
Sure.
that's what's happening in high blood pressure, except replace the pipe with your blood and replace replace the water in this analogy with your blood and the pipe with your blood vessels, such as your arteries.
Okay. So there's where the high blood pressure, and we have the systolic and diastolic. Those are the two that people hear about. When those go
Hmm.
up, then obviously that's a warning signal. That's the fire alarm that's going off. So we don't want to just take the broom handle and start banging on it or take the batteries out of it. There's a problem here. So if you are going to address this as a medical professional, what do you start doing with someone that's already crossed the threshold and dealing with this problem of high blood pressure?
So the first thing that we want to get under control is lifestyle behaviors. So
Mm.
movement, exercise, or combating a sedentary lifestyle. Just they say sitting is the new smoking these days. So getting up and moving. In addition to nutrition, getting whole, real foods into our bodies instead of things from a box or a bag, as
Sure.
well as stress management. And so that has to do a lot with regulating our nervous system, feeling safe in our body, and feeling like we have the capacity to live an effective life while also feeling peace on the inside. And so we really look at those three
Mhm.
fundamental principles before adding on additional layers.
And I like that you covered that third facet again, because I hear a lot of people that come from the medical industry and they will immediately address, okay, your diet is bad. We know it. If it's in a bag, like you said, it's probably not good for you. And if it has ingredients in there that look like a sentence long, probably it's also not good. Those are compounding problems. And then we all know we should be moving more, but we don't. we should. And you're adding a third factor in here that I'm understanding is becoming rivaling the heart problem, which is stress management. So you're saying all three of these are a three-dimensional problem that we should all approach. So if we are to look at something, and since we're talking about nitric oxide, we're talking about something that can affect high blood pressure. Tell me, what is nitric oxide and what does it do?
So nitric oxide is a molecule in the body that its primary function, it does so many things. But the thing that I definitely want to hit on is that it does something called vasodilation. That's just a fancy word for expanding our blood vessels. So go back to that analogy of the water running through the pipe. What it's going to do is expand the pipe. It's going to open it up so that water can flush through a lot easier. I mean, nitric oxide does a ton of things with our brain function, our sleep function, our mood function, our musculoskeletal system. But
Well,
a thing that is directly related to hypertension and that should be mentioned is how much it has the capacity and how powerful it is to facilitate with vasodilation. And when that's accomplished, our high blood pressure is very quickly rectified and stabilized back to how the body wants to perform and function.
okay. So many things to kind of, I guess you would say, peel back the layers of the onions. In this situation, since we're talking about high blood pressure, you're saying nitric oxide has the ability to have an immediate effect by
Mhm.
helping the basically the vessels or the pipe itself that our blood is going through to help it relax. So vasodilation
Exactly.
is basically helping it relax, and therefore there's a easier flow of the blood through our cardiovascular system. Okay.
Exactly.
So when someone is talking about nitric oxide, if I'm understanding our body chemistry, didn't we start off at a certain age with a fair amount of nitric oxide that the body produced organically?
So we are naturally born and living life with all the nitric oxide that we need, but depending on our own behaviors and habits, as we've discussed, and just natural aging, which happens like if you get wrinkles, it happens over time. There's some
Sure.
naturalness to this, what I'm about to say. And there's also some self inflicted wounding, if you could say, on our own nitric oxide production that begins to decline as we start to reach our 30s and our 40s. And then when we get to our 50s and our 60s, it can actually be less than half of what we were born with, depending on the rate of our own decline in our own lifestyle choices.
So you're saying or confirming that the understanding is as we age, there's a possibility we don't really know what aging is totally, but this nitric oxide deficiency is certainly like you said, an important molecule that regulates and relaxes our entire cardiovascular system. So if
Mhm.
we are naturally losing it as we're aging past 30 and then 40, and then we see it dropping to almost half of natural production, um, that's a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we need our blood flow to all of our body. We need oxygen, we need nutrients, we need energy. And if there's a decline in that, not only are we going to suffer from our inability to take on life in a way that we are used to, but also this could deteriorate and expedite into more chronic conditions like heart
Sure.
disease, like atherosclerosis, like
Right.
things that can be really serious for our own health.
I can see the compounding effect. And so as we're aging, then it's important for us to be paying attention to this. And this, I've heard it called a miracle molecule, nitric oxide.
Mhm.
It's been around for quite a while, but I think there was a Nobel Prize that was awarded, what, 15? No, no, longer than that. Was it 98?
It was 1998. It won the Nobel Prize for its as a significant molecule in the primary production of vasodilation, so in expanding those blood vessels. And it was also noted to increase other functions and other modalities, as I previously mentioned, with
Sure.
neurotransmission, helping communication in our brain and our sleep. But it has been found in that in or accoladed in 1998 for its contribution to vasodilation and maintaining the homeostasis of our cardiovascular health.
Okay. So we're seeing, number one, nitric oxide is definitely a component to keep us healthy from a cardiovascular standpoint. And then we're seeing, because our cardiovascular system pumps our blood with oxygen throughout our entire body, we're seeing it also affect our cognitive brain functions.
Hmm.
You're also seeing, I think you mentioned something regarding sleep, which I guess is a
Hmm.
combination of all that. So we're seeing it multifactorial, that it has so many benefits for us. Um, when we start aging, obviously it's declining. If we were doing what mom told us, which was eat better, or eat right, stop eating all that junk, is there natural things that we can eat that help us boost the nitric oxide within our bodies?
Yeah, so we want to look at nitrate-rich foods. So popular ones, for example, are spinach, are beets. People even can supplement with like beetroot powder, although nitric oxide accomplishes that goal. But beets, spinach, and arugula are known to be really high in nitric oxide if we're integrating those into our diet. And just looking out and paying attention to nitrate-rich foods, that's kind of the key word you want to look for there.
Okay. So when we take in these nitrate-rich foods, that term nitrate, when we consume it, it converts into the nitric oxide gas that is so beneficial for our cardiovascular system and, our whole bodies in general.
It's going to kickstart that natural production within the body.
Okay. So in addition to eating better, which sounds like eating salads, we should be eating a salad more often, right?
Yes.
And we forget, we can do other things from an exercise standpoint that can also help produce this nitric oxide in our bodies. When you recommend someone to get off the couch, right, from their sedentary lifestyle, what are you recommending, doctor, that someone do to start off with to start getting more nitric oxide produced from, not running a marathon, right? What do you tell your patients to do?
I mean, the most powerful thing to start doing, especially if you're sedentary completely and you're not versed in the workout scene, workout community, is just going on walks because building endurance and building stamina as opposed to, doing 100 burpees and potentially disrupting your cortisol levels, depending on where you're at in your journey. But going on walks and having that low impact, sustained cardiovascular activation is going to be really powerful for that, as well as light weightlifting and basic
Okay.
strength training. Not again, doesn't have to be anything crazy like CrossFit, like doing our
Sure.
box jumps. And if that's your thing, go for it. But
Right.
just general movement and walks are so much more powerful than you can even imagine.
Mhm. And that's something that you don't have to go get a membership, and you don't have
No.
to risk, like you said, doing box jumps or something crazy like that and falling over sideways, and then having to go see their doctor because now their back is hurt or they've thrown their shoulder out.
Yeah.
Um, Really, when you're just going to walk, that means putting on a pair of shoes and deciding after you have dinner to go take a 30-minute walk.
Yeah,
Simple
and
as
it's
that.
also good for that stress management where
Okay.
you find that inner sense of groundedness and that inner sense of presence
Mhm.
and comes back to maintaining homeostasis in your body by not only facilitating movement and getting your heart pumping, but also finding a state of presence and finding a state of peace.
Sure. That stress management is a double, I guess you'd say, bonus, because not only then do you get the nitric oxide, but by helping manage the stress, you're reducing your cortisol, harmful hormone that's in your body.
Exactly.
And you said that you're also talking about another dynamic there that is not just psychological, but almost even a spiritual or a soul level of helping your soul breathe. Is that a good term?
Yeah, no, I like that. And when you feel peace deep inside, like deep in your soul, your body's naturally going to want to work. And if you feel the opposite, unrest, distress deep inside, your body's going to be show you symptoms of that.
Sure. So if we all had the perfect world and we could have this soul breathing time every day and we could eat our salads because we're not pressed and watching our watch and going, we're already late, the idea of getting a supplement, Where do you fit that in, Doc, and how do you recommend that for your patients?
So I love supplementation for a variety of reasons. One, because so much of our food, and this is really unfortunate, like depending on where you're listening, but living in the States, are sprayed and are induced with all of these chemical ingredients that aren't good for us. And so it'll slow down, even if you are eating the spinach, if you are eating the beets and you are going on the walks, it can slow down or even completely void any absorption of any of these healthy particles, such as nitric oxide, that we require for optimal functionality. And so supplementation, depending on where you're at on your journey and your process, can be really, really powerful before an exercise or a movement like going on a walk, especially if you're someone who is experiencing a little bit of those muscle cramps, those energetic fatigues, and not feeling that motivation. But in general, starting off your day with that boost so that your blood is flowing through the entirety of your body as you go on to take on the day and take on your responsibilities. But I really do like that supplementation for bypassing any of the chemicals that have been sprayed on our crops.
Okay. So that's a really good point, because the whole idea of going after organic is hopefully reducing some of those
Mhm.
pesticides and other types of chemicals that are just laced all over our food now. But going after organic is one thing. If someone's going to use supplementation, there's amino acids out there. I understand one's arginine and one's citrulline. Can you kind of give me a real, not a deep dive into chemistry, give me an overview for a layman's term. What are those amino acids and how do they help?
So L-arginine is actually a precursor for nitric oxide in the body. So when we take L-arginine, it it facilitates that process of the body's natural production of nitric oxide. And then L-citrulline, similarly, it very easily converts in the body to arginine. And so both of these supplements are going to fast track our body's natural production of nitric oxide so that it's not something synthetic that we're taking on the outside and putting inside of us. It's taking something, an amino acid, that is a building block for our body to function, and implanting that in our system so that our body can say, okay, let's make more of the thing that we need, that we're naturally declining in as we age.
Is there a value with taking these separately or in combination?
So for a while, they were taken separately, but there was a study, I think it was in 2023 by the Journal of Clinical Hypertension, that showed us and demonstrated that taking both of these together, so L-arginine and L-citrulline together, increased what we call the bioavailability of these structures, of these compounds. And what that means is our body's ability to absorb them and receive them to direct them to go to the correct location, to the correct place. So basically, when you take these two individual amino acids together, they do their job better than each of them could do individually. What's that saying? It's like the sum is greater than our parts.
Mhm. By putting
So
that,
yeah,
the synergistic effect, that's where the bioavailability is coming from, is that it helps deliver and make it easier for our body to get the nitric oxide that it so badly needs and it's starving for.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
So you've given me some really good insights, and I know that our viewers are going to be taking this to heart, because it just sounds like there is just no reason from a standpoint that if you have already crossed the threshold and you know that you're dealing with some hypertension, maybe you even have a family history that kind of kind of leans you that direction, or from an environmental standpoint, you're saying because all of our food products are sprayed, and we could add in there the loss of our nutrients that are in our soil, that our
Hmm.
products that they were putting in our mouth just don't have the nutrients they once did. Maybe when grandma and grandpa or great grandparents, once upon a time, that food was just a better quality. So all,
Yeah.
all of these factors combined mean that, yes, we should have more salads. Yes, we should reduce the complex type of packaged foods that we too easily go to. We should go take that walk, as often as we can, early in the morning or after dinner. All those things are going to help. But it sounds like as we're aging, this is an uphill battle that our body is fighting, so we need to help it supplement.
Exactly. And because of everything that you said, because of our decreased ability to absorb the nutrients from our food, from how it's processed these days, because of maybe we have limited time to access how many days a week we can go on a walk or hit the gym, or the stress management, having access to something like a supplement, especially a high grade natural supplement, is going to help us on that journey of replenishing that nitric oxide capacity in our body.
Outstanding. Dr. Alex, you've helped so much, and I appreciate you're so articulate with the way that you explain this. It makes a complex subject feel like I'm able to get my arms around it. So I appreciate you taking the time and going through this. Is there any way, if someone needs to reach out or find you online, is there a preferred way that you'd like for them to connect with you?
Yeah, the best way, well, thank you for your kind words, first of all.
Mhm.
And the best way to connect with me is probably Instagram, and it's
Okay.
my name. We can link it below. It's Alexandra Trev.
Okay.
And that is also my name on YouTube. And I have some longer form informational stuff on there.
That would be great. And yes, we certainly will put that in the description so that someone can connect and see what else you've also helped publish out here so that you can, share that insight. And again, I appreciate the articulation and taking complex subjects like this and making it simple for those of us that don't come from a medical background. Thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.